Live from the Talking Joe Studios. It's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark. And today we are talking about the latest book out. It is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero Sssilent Missions, Copperhead. But we will not be doing that on our own today. We will be joined by special guest, the writer-artist of the book itself, Howard Porter. This book is brought to us by the team of Howard Porter and colorist Romulo Fajardo Jr. Strap in with Howard Porter for a swamp death race that's too fast and too fatal for the fearless Copperhead to turn down. Unfortunately, his competition isn't going to let anyone, even Cobra, stop them from winning. It is out Wednesday, 22nd of April 2026, and we will be getting into the details. We'll talk about a little bit about Howard's background, a bit about how he created the book, and then eventually we'll get into some spoilers. But we'll try and warn you before we get too far into that territory. But I will not be talking to our illustrious guest on my own. As always, I will be joined by my co-host. It's Real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, listeners, viewers. Let's bring in our guest so we can ask him about this spinner rack that I caught behind him.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Howard Porter.
Feel your entrance.
There you go.
I like that.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm in Boston. Mark is on the south coast of England. Where are you?
I'm not too far from you. I'm in Maine, just slightly north. Yep.
Okay. 2 hours. 2 hour drive.
Yep. Depending on how fast you go. Yep.
This looks sort of like a studio and sort of like part of a home where people live, but I see over your left shoulder a spinner rack. Yep. Can you just give us a quick tour of interesting art things that are around you?
Well, like on that side is more of the home side, but that side has all my comics that my wife, through the years, she's just put them all in order and everything. And it goes down that whole wall. And up on top also are my comics and action figures that were made of them. And then the spinner rack is mostly Fantastic Four and my artist and friend that I enjoy very much his work, Ron Garney, I keep there. Just makes me feel good to look at the old Fantastic Four comics every day that I grew up with.
So it's not your issues of Fantastic Four. It's not authoritative action in that spinner rack.
No, those are way down the hole. Those other ones.
But the rest of the hall is almost like a museum to your work, is it?
Yeah, that's where we
showcase.
keep all the comp issues. That my wife organized them, and I don't generally like to look at my work, but she did it and forced me to look at it, and I've learned to appreciate it.
Just before Mark hit record, he pointed out that you have a good-looking microphone, and you said an interesting G word. You said the word guitar. Oh. So what is it about this microphone and you and music?
Aside from art, my other hobby love is music. So, and the instrument I chose is guitar. So I've been playing for quite some time. I was in a band in the early 2000s with a person I mentioned earlier, Ron Garney. And so the microphone is just a regular vocal microphone. And my computer doesn't have any cameras or anything hooked into it. So I had to use this microphone and like a little guitar amp as my interface. So that's what that is.
Technology.
So that implies a bit of singing as well as guitaring.
Only when I'm alone.
Okay, in this band, are you the singer or are you the guitarist?
Guitar, but that band no longer exists. That was decades ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I still play.
I was going to say, comic book artists seem to spend like 10 to 18 hours a day at a drawing table, yes. And then they like trudge into the other room to grunt at a family member and eat food. Exactly. Did you really have time to be in a band?
Well, I shared a studio with the person I mentioned with Ron Garney. So we were there together all the time. We took breaks and would play, and I've been playing my whole life since about 17. And no, I didn't have time. I didn't have time for anything. That's why I'm not playing.
Ron Garney's first professional work was an issue of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And Mark and I are G.I. Joe-ologists. And so we are happy for you to mention Ron Garney without any preface. If you say Ron Garney, we know what that means.
Wow.
Also, Berserker and Amazing Spider-Man and all that.
That's a deep cut. That was one of his first things, I think. The G.I. Joe. I believe I actually was there when he was drawing it. So
really?
Yeah, I've known him for a long time.
Cool.
Do you have it, you said?
I have a page from that issue.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
That's the Saw Viper issue,
yeah,
is it?
that's where they track him down. Howard, this is a bad guy who had just killed some G.I. Joe characters, and this is the issue where a couple of Joes catch up with him.
Gotcha. I remember drawing a Humvee. That's what he was drawing a Humvee. I ruled some lines for him or something.
Oh, you actually worked on that issue a tiny time.
Maybe I helped him with the backgrounds. That's what I started out doing, yeah. But I don't think so. Maybe just one ruled some lines on a car or something.
Right.
That's amazing.
This is why you got to tune in to Talking Joe, because you never know what minutia you'll learn.
Right.
I want to start at the beginning. I want to talk about Copperhead. Mark, we usually start with one particular question. Why don't you take that one?
So we normally talk about your introduction to G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe, as we know it, was launched in 1982. There were toys, there were comics, there were cartoons. What, if anything, did G.I. Joe mean to a younger Howard Porter?
So I did have the toys way before the cartoons and comics. I had a guy, he had a red hair and a beard that I shaved because I saw my dad shaving. I thought that would be so cool if I could shave his beard, but it didn't grow back. So...
Are you talking about a big 12-inch guy?
Yes, it was big. Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about 12-inch Joe.
Yes, the old
Adventure Team.
Old school, yeah.
Okay, now those figures were released starting in 69, 70.
It was in the 70s, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The small Joes, Real American Hero Joes, who showed up in 82. Did you have those toys? Did you watch that cartoon? Did you read that Marvel comic?
I did not have those. No. Okay. No, I didn't reconnect till the awesome music of the movie, of that cartoon movie that I love. I was just listening to music. I love the music.
You mean the main title?
Yeah, or I'll just play the movie and listen to as I'm working.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Like the music when like Python is going through the Terradrome and all that kind of stuff.
And synths and stuff.
When Nemesis Enforcer cuts through the Havoc and pulls Snow Job out, there's this guitar and synth that's just really really sort of leering. Yeah.
So obviously you guys were jumped on right away, right? In the first comics, 82, whatever you said.
I got into the comics in 89, but I was paying it. I knew the toy and the cartoon in 84. So Mark and I are sort of the prime age for the 80s G.I. Joe.
Nice.
Was there a comic book store near you growing up? Did you have newsstands or a PX? Where did you get comics?
We had it was a drugstore they call it a drugstore in the center of town, about 6 miles. I had to trek, but there was no comic stores. No, that was.
Was this Maine?
I'm sorry. No, this was in Connecticut. There was one by the Capitol in Hartford, East Hartford. There was a store called The Bookie that I got to see a couple times before that my mom dropped me off to see. But no, I really didn't know too many comic book stores till they didn't spread around till later.
Was there a particular comic that growing up that sort of really made a big impression that kind of made you think, oh, this is something that I should be doing with my life?
I can't remember a specific. I can remember lots of specific ones, not just any one, but because they were always there in my life. It would have to probably be visiting my cousins. It would be a Flash and a Green Lantern comics. I can remember the first was a Flash Annual #1, I think, and he had in the back How to Draw the Flash by Carmen Infantino, and that one I remember vividly, which really grabbed me as a little guy.
And you've had 2 noteworthy runs on the Flash.
Yeah.
But not so much Green Lantern.
No, not too much other books he's appeared, but have not focused on him.
And he would have been probably what, Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, that you've drawn.
Yes, I've drawn them both, but mostly Kyle. Yeah, back in the JLA. Yep.
So yeah, let's talk about sort of growing up and getting into comics as a career. What was your springboards into action of actually becoming a pro for comics?
That would be in college. One of the teacher who was teaching the cartooning class, his name is Frank McLaughlin. He saw some of my drawings. I would draw jokes and hang them around werewolves and things. And he saw them, or somebody brought them to him. And I met with him, and through him, I got to meet other local artists like Dick Giordano and Bob Smith, Steve Montano, DC artists who lived in the area, because I lived in Southern Connecticut. And I began to do backgrounds for them, inking backgrounds. So that was how I learned a lot. I did that for about 6 years, and then I worked up a portfolio and submitted and got in the old-fashioned way where they picked pages. But yeah, picked me rather.
Howard, you left comics and you came back to comics, and when you did, your drawing was different. Can you talk about that?
It's always different. It's always changing. Today is different than yesterday. I don't hardly look back. So,
well, why did you leave comics, and when was that?
That was in about 2000. I went to work IT at an investment bank in Manhattan, which it's not very exciting, but I enjoyed it for the social aspect and stuff. But I did miss comics drawing a lot, and then 9/11 happened, and I said, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in the city. And that was it. I went back to comics shortly after that. And I got the studio with Ron at that point. So yeah, I had left to see if I could do the 9 to 5 thing. And I did it for a while. But
when you came back, do you think your drawing looked different because some time had passed? Or was there something specific that you were thinking now that was different, or was there like a lesson or a class or a freelance job that changed how you approached comics?
You know what? Probably, aside from just the time passing, it was probably working alongside my friend Ron, bouncing ideas back and forth and being inspired by him. So it's probably that's a big part, because before that I had worked by myself primarily. And I'm always trying to learn and push and try new things anyhow. So maybe that's what it was too. I take that back. That didn't happen until later. There was another change in my style where I started to do all the artwork myself. I didn't. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is the transition on the tiny bottom sliver of the screen, folks. Below Howard's keyboard, you can see a big. Is that a Cintiq?
Oh yes. Well, it's not, but it is like one. Yes.
Okay, so a tablet, a big tablet, and you were holding a stylus, which means either you browse the internet with a stylus or you draw with a. So you draw digitally now.
I do.
And you draw only digitally now? When did you start drawing digitally, and what does that get you?
Boy, when was that? And for a while, I was drawing the first part of the page. I started by doing just the layouts digitally because that's so much easier to move your elements around without erasing and so forth. And then I would print them out in Lightbox and then bring them back and finish them. But now I just keep it all in the computer, and it just saves time. No smudges. You can undo, move things much easier. However, the things I'm working on now, I would like to print them out and put them on the board because, as far as I know, AI can't draw on paper yet. So I want to start putting it back on paper.
So you would be inking on paper?
Yeah, I would do.
For our next project?
I'm doing some covers. I'm going to do all the preliminaries on here and then ink it onto the board. Yeah.
Cool.
I hope.
And what's on the virtual boards at the moment? What's the current project?
Battle Beast. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Invincible.
I like Battle Beast.
Invincible Universe presents Battle Beast.
So cool. It's just a cover, but the character is so fun, just a lot of fun to draw.
That's another good segue. You're one of the very few artists who has drawn both G.I. Joe for the Energon universe and also G.I. Joe for the Real American Hero universe, the one that started in '82 and does not have Transformers running around in it.
Oh, right.
So, Mark, shall we jump over to this Copperhead comic?
Well, we could quickly talk about how you got working with Skybound, because, as Tim says, this isn't your first go on G.I. Joe that we've seen. I think just 2 covers from you, from a reprint to issue 1 and a variant cover for issue number 8 featuring Major Blood and Baroness.
Mark,
so should we quickly...
There is also the upcoming Energon universe. Is it cover B or cover C? This is where Hawk is looking into a mirror, and it's Zartan.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Maybe while Howard answers the question about getting to Skybound and doing these 2 covers, you can pull up that image. Howard, how did you get to Skybound and draw these 2 covers?
As you can see by the gray hair, I'm getting older, so I had been working for DC for many years, and the deadlines and everything are just, I have like a PTSD over it now. And so many hours. I had stepped away to I'd been pulling away, spending time with my family and doing things I wanted to do in life. And I'd done that for a while. And then Ben Abernathy from Skybound called up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some covers?" I'm like, you know what? I've been sitting around a lot. I think I would like that. So that's the way it started. Ben called me up and said, "Do you want to play?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." And and then he said, "What do you want to do?" And asked me to do those things. And I'm like, momentum built from there. And I'm drawing a lot more than I have been in recent times. So I think it's going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I was going to say the upcoming Energon Universe special cover that you did with Hawk and Zartan was a particularly fun one, with that reflection of Zartan facing back to Hawk in the mirror.
I'm learning about these characters as I go along. He's the master of the skies, right?
That's what the jingle in the toy commercial back in 1984 says. He's an evil master of disguise.
As long as mirrors aren't around.
Well, I think here it's symbolic.
Yes.
Here, it's like how the eye is the window to the soul. This Copperhead special, when I think of you, I think of pencils on books like JLA and The Flash. And then more recently, I think of pencils and inks, and sometimes also colors. Like, I think you've done a new cover for some JLA reprints.
I don't know, but I have colored some things. I have done, it might be an older one, but I have colored a few things. Yeah.
But with this Copperhead comic, you're also the writer.
Yes.
So in a general sense, can you talk to us about your interest in, or lack thereof, of writing comics or writing the comics that you draw?
I've always had interest in it. Yeah. There was not a lack of it. It's just maybe in being too intimidated, or I don't know why I never pursued it before. Maybe I think I just wanted to focus on one thing and do that the best I could. And now I'm doing less of that thing. There's more time I can maybe focus on another aspect, and they go hand in hand, because drawing a comic book isn't just drawing. Every penciler, inker isn't just drawing pretty pictures. It's about the storytelling. It's the most important part. And so you can't, it's hard to separate the two for me. So I like to explore this some more.
So let's talk about the genesis for specifically the Copperhead project. So let's talk about where the choice of character came from, and how what sort of that meant in terms of the story ideas that you explored, and where those came from.
Okay. There was no choice. It was just like, hey, how would you like to work on this book, Copperhead? I'm like, I haven't heard of him before. So I researched him, and he seemed like to be a fun character, just trouble. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. And right. So how did I come up with the idea? I thought when researching him and reading about him, he was like a hardcore gambler, just drinker, just mechanic, inventor, just so I thought, what is this guy going to be like if he has to quiet his mind and be alone with himself for a little bit? Why is he so into all these other things? Maybe he doesn't like to have a quiet mind. And so what happened there? So I wanted to bring him back to where his origins might be a troubling time and just go wild, maybe suppressing and remembering some things about growing up. So that's about it.
Do you have I mean, I know you've drawn the Flash.
Yep.
Do you have a particular affinity for racing, or more specifically, swamps or aquatic stories? Because the setting for some of this book is a little unusual for comics.
Yeah. That I wanted to make it interesting, and of course, swamps. Swamp Thing takes place in a swamp all the time, but. I thought that would be a good backdrop, and where he came from. That's he grew up in there, so I wanted to bring him back there. Do I have affinity for that? No, not really. Racing, I think the biggest challenge in a 2D image is to make it feel like it's moving. So I like to challenge myself and make everything moving. And without words, I wanted to lean on that as well.
I will say that previous question was not meant as a setup to trap you. No. If this swamp character was not hanging out in a swamp, I would have been confused or disappointed. If this Copperhead comic had him in the desert and in like an underground vault, I would have been like, wait a minute. So yes, swamp is probably the right place for some of this story to take place. And this is a character who hasn't shown up much in the comics and hasn't shown up much in the TV cartoon. But the few times that he did, and the character design, the toy design, and the vehicle that he comes with back in the 80s are such standouts that I think this.
I looked at that a lot.
This is one of those characters that I feel like his impact is disproportionately large. I think he's a lot of, maybe not favorite character, but he's a lot of people's, one of their favorites characters, just because he looks cool and he seems cool, even though he hasn't sort of by volume done a lot. So when this was announced, I thought, cool. And then I saw the cover and I thought, yes, he's in a swamp vehicle in the swamp. And then I squinted my eyes. Yes, the other guy who would be there is there. And I think he's in his specific vehicle. So,
wow.
I don't think you should always give the fans exactly what they want, but there were a couple of broad strokes here that I didn't know I was hoping for, and I got them.
Boy, I had something to just say. Now that I've forgotten. Yeah, Zartan, his buddy. Oh, is it Zartan? Is that his name?
Zanzibar.
That's
another one of the Zeds. Yeah, the swamp pirate.
Zanzibar, like Zartan's cousin. Is that the relationship?
I don't think it's ever been specified. It's a bit of a coincidence we've got another Z, but yeah, I don't think there's any familial connection there to the fight. But yeah, bizarrely enough, in my mind, despite the fact that they've got these two very swampy vehicles, I'd never really connected the two together. So it was a lot of fun and a surprise to see them in this kind of adventure / race together. So was this a character that you just identified from research, or maybe it was suggested?
No,
throw him into the mix.
I had not seen him prior to this. I just, watched the movies and read what I could scrape up on the internet. And I think you were going back. You're saying how much of an impact he made with such a small appearance, kind of like Boba Fett. He has that kind of Boba Fett feel, like the cool mask and stuff. Yeah, what was I going to say after that? I wanted to bring up the Boba Fett thing. Now I've forgotten where.
And the cool mask, you sort of have done a bit of a redesign. I don't think this was like an existing part of his design. You sort of created these lines on the front of his mask, sort of like I don't know what, like
I was thinking of a snake,
jagged kind of like a snake,
teeth, fangs rather, and then hit the air thing in the front could maybe express some emotion because I couldn't show his mouth. I asked him.
Well, there is.
Good.
Sorry, go ahead.
I asked.
What?
I wanted to have the mask off, but they said let's keep it on. So,
Aha.
yeah.
Well, there is on page 3 in panel 3, he is drinking alcohol,
Dumping it into it,
and it's there's sort of the visual gag of any character who has a mask. If they're holding a beverage, you just cut away and then you cut back, and there's less beverage.
Yeah,
and like maybe the audience tracks it, and maybe the audience doesn't.
No, I poured it right in.
But he's got like little vertical slits in the sort of green part underneath the black like breather part. And at first I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't work, or that should be spilling. And then I thought, I'll allow it.
Yeah,
I really the story point here is that he's drinking, and it doesn't really matter if the story point is not that he's like unsuccessful at imbibing. The story point is that he's successful at imbibing, and maybe he's sloppy.
Yeah, he's just.
You start drinking so fast it sort of spills over.
It's leaving a mess in his wake. Yep.
Yeah, he's really sticking. He's committed to the bit. I'm keeping my mask on, and blah blah blah. Some of this is going to get through the mask. Some of it maybe is going to go on the floor.
And Mark, can you zoom in on the first panel or the whole top tier? The first time I read this, I was reading it pretty quickly, and the second time I read it, I thought, oh, that's not just a Cobra building. I think that's sort of his building.
Yeah, where he would keep all his whatevers.
Because it's got a snake motif on the outside in that first panel. But subtly, it's sort of his colors. It's not like red cobras. And then there's this framed photo and this sort of special booze in this empty penthouse. And Copperhead is sad. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Oh, good. It worked.
Yeah, because you get the silent kind of shtick, and there's different ways that people are approaching what that can mean in terms of like a storytelling tool, what the limitations it has, and the strength maybe that you can lean into, and here it was an interesting one that it's a kinetic book, and there's a lot going on, but we've got this quiet moment here where you're kind of leaning into the silent moments of, like, I guess, grief or nostalgia for a time that's passed with, I guess, him and his father when he was young.
It's funny. I've not written stories before, and I've always heard writers say, the character will speak to you. But like I'm drawing it, and this whole backstory came to me. Movie played in my head, and the story got out of hand, and Ben's like, we got to keep it simple.
So going back a half step, all right. So you worked with Ben Abernathy on this, and not Alex Antone?
He was out. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the whole thing you were working with Abernathy.
Yes.
And then, do you remember a timeline? Do you remember when he first offered this to you, and how long it took you to draw?
Towards the end of last year. It was over a couple of months, maybe November, December, or something.
Okay. So he brings this character to you. You do some research. Did you have kind of one story that you pitched and then you honed it down, or were there different options?
No, it was always this story. It was bigger though. There was more characters and things. And then I learned you have to be very simple because it's very hard for the artist to fit all that into the panels. I started complaining.
Your artist
complaining about the writer who was me.
Yeah, I just want to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the page with 15 panels.
Yeah.
And then later on, there's another page with, it's hard to count, 15 or 16, because there's a panel behind everything that's kind of one panel, but 3 panels at the same time. So I was thinking about this wordless issue compared to the other wordless issues this month in 2026, and then the batch that we had last year, and then a couple wordless stories, in G.I. Joe comics history going back to 84. And this wins the prize for most panels in a G.I. Joe wordless comic ever.
That's
maybe any G.I. Joe comic ever, although that's harder to track or prove. But I was thinking about sort of the density or the simplicity of a wordless comic, and how, like you were just indirectly quoting Ben Abernathy, simplify, fewer characters.
Yep.
And there are still a lot of characters in this, and like 3 major locations, maybe 4, depending on how you count.
Yeah.
And there is a lot going on.
Yes, I wanted to fill it because there was no words. I thought, I don't want somebody to be done with my book in 2 minutes. Let me put a lot of panels in so they can enjoy it for 3 minutes.
These guys in red on the first page, are these G.I. Joe characters, or are these sort of other heroic or military characters?
They were supposed to be. Originally, I had a specific G.I. Joe character, and they didn't. They said go with more of a throwaway kind of thing. So I thought maybe they're just like part-time G.I. Joes. I don't know, like the red shirts in Star Trek.
Okay. And then tell us about these 2 glowing canisters, these MacGuffins.
All right. So what is see, this is how much I don't know about G.I. Joe. They have, what's that energy stuff is
this the mass device?
Oh, jeez. I
I
had it written.
From the cartoon, are you thinking of the cartoon or the Energon from the Transformers?
No, the cartoon, I think. I don't know. I thought they were like planting sensors or whatever, and he was stealing them. I forget what. I had it all written out. I'd have to look at my notes.
Okay, so sensors, not an energy source.
Well,
fuel.
No, it was a fuel. It was like an energy thing that was specific to G.I. Joe, which I can't recall the name. It had a specific name. I'm so embarrassed.
So I was thinking it was kind of like playing in the area where you had the mass device, where they were selecting these different energy sources, and Tim, you'll probably off the top of your head, they had like 3 different colored things that the Joes were going around the world.
In the first 5 episodes of the G.I. Joe cartoon ever, there's this giant teleportation device that looks like a diamond, and it runs off of these red crystals, this deep blue water, and this radioactive volcanic sand.
That would have been way cooler than my glowing yellow soda bottle.
But there are other episodes where there is something particular to just that one episode, and there are about 100 episodes of G.I. Joe.
Oh, wow.
So maybe you caught a scene in a different episode that has a very, like, that episode's MacGuffin. Maybe that's your reference.
MacGuffin. Okay. That's exactly it. That's exactly what I intended.
I mean, in this case, actually, forgive me, everyone. I'm misquoting my sort of movie references. In this case, the MacGuffin is more the trophy.
Okay.
That's in the photo on page 1, and then at the end of the book, and not this sort of disposable prop that this scuba guy has.
Right.
So a primary MacGuffin and secondary MacGuffin. I really,
yeah, because I mean, this opening sequence, it's kind of, it's, you know, I guess it's like sort of a James Bond, Indiana Jones sort of action sequence to get us going. He's doing a thing. He's wrapping up his mission. He's using his cool grappling hook thing to sort of fly away in the Cobra jet. And then we're done with that on page 2. And then he's back at the end of the mission, and then he's having the moment where he's on his own and he's not having the action. And it's, I get the impression that it's those kind of moments that he deals with less well. And he wants the kind of the distraction of an adventure, a race, whatever else. And
if there were,
is it? It's the. Is that the trophy in the photo on page 3? Is that the same thing that comes up later on that he's trying to get back?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I was thinking. Anytime his mind was quiet, he would find a way to find some excitement, to not have to deal with that, and whether it was going out on the street to find a race or whatever it was.
So. Apologies if this is nitpicking. Sometimes because we're given either advanced PDFs of the whole book, or there are those preview pages that Skybound provides to everyone. Sometimes there are very, very small lettering or color changes, and the checkered flags here.
Oh yeah, they're all red.
In the photo for the sort of flashback moments are red, and I think every other time we see this trophy with these two Yeah, they're traditional black and white checker flags.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Too late
if
for that.
that's a coloring error, here's hoping it gets fixed.
Or we can just change the story. Those are tablecloths. Those aren't actually checkered flags.
maybe his dad was really careless with this prized possession,
Yes.
and sort of lost, or things wear out. They got tattered, or he spilled beer and swamp
this is
water.
many
Okay.
years ago. This is many years ago. The metal of the trophy is going to endure, but the flags could get replaced over time.
New
right?
flags.
Since we're zoomed in on the left, tell us about this logo you've designed for this fictional alcohol that Copperhead.
It's random skull and snakes. Some venomous swill.
Okay, it's just cool. It's just fun to design.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just randomness.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'll just spend a few hours designing this random logo, which is going to appear on one panel, shrunk down
in perspective and slightly knocked back in color. Presumably, as designer Howard, when you were drawing Skull with snakes, you're thinking, well, maybe it should be snake motif because he's a Cobra bad guy,
right.
And also it needs to somehow look sinister. It's not going to be like a field of barley. Or a sunset and a cowboy hat or something.
Right. It wasn't. I wanted to go with the probiotic fiber, but I thought it wouldn't get to evil guy so much. So maybe drinking snake venom. I don't know.
And this is a very snaky book. If you were to tell me that there were at least 5 snakes on every single page of this book, I'd probably just nod and say, "Yeah, that sounds about right." That's
what I'm doing right now. I would agree.
And secondarily, many pages plus the cover have at least 3 alligators. There's a page, I don't know, Mark, how far your preview goes.
The Skybound preview is the first 4 pages, so that's as far as I'm going with pages.
Well, let me look at my PDF. 2, 3, 4. Well, if you want to go back, Mark, to the first page and the first panel, there's a thing that is happening there that happens in some other pages, which I really appreciate. Howard, there's a little bit of either banana shot perspective, like where we're looking left and straight and right.
Oh yeah.
And it's happening here behind Copperhead on page 3. I think this is 3, where we sort of get the sense that this is not like a flat backdrop and a flat ocean, that we're actually in a globe, we're in a sphere, and we're like in Earth. It's just a little bit smaller. It's like another way of saying this would be fisheye, but it's a very particular. And then it happens on panel 1 with sort of all the water and the clouds perspective around that. Is it an oil rig? And then later on, when I think it's when the race starts, the officiant in the swamp sort of whooshes the checker flag to start. Yeah, and it sort of curls close on the left side of the panel, and then even closer in the center, and then close again on the right. And there's this. It's like what I'm doing with my hands right now.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of dynamism, but also a little bit of exaggerated and warped perspective. And it's very satisfying and energetic, and not something we often see in G.I. Joe comics, which a lot of times have had sort of a more traditional American adventure style, crisper and sort of straight and rectangular. So that's cool.
It is intentional, but I think part of it is I have an astigmatism. Very bad. Everything looks like that to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're making it work.
Thanks.
For you. Because the first thing that I thought when I saw this first panel was, oh, what a cool vista of making the ocean look and feel really big.
Yeah, I want it to feel like you're there in the corners of your eyes. You're seeing far to the distant.
And the oil rig is in like a little bit of 3-point perspective.
Yeah.
Even though it's really far away, it still feels like it's looming. It's still really big.
Yeah. and then they knocked it back with the atmospheric perspective, so it seems really far back. The color Rom did a great job.
Have you worked with him before? Can you talk about your relationship with him, with color, with colorists?
I have worked with him before. A lot of covers in a couple of issues now. So I don't have too much contact with them. I just send in my pages and they come back beautiful. And that's pretty much the way it's been in my career. I haven't had too much contact with the creators. Hi-Fi, I worked so long. I did talk to some, but I always like to. I don't like to give any direction or anything. I like to get a surprise when it comes back, and because I don't want to make them push them to try to be me. I want them to do what they do. So I love to see the surprises when it comes back.
Yeah, I think talking to the kind of the look of the pages and this book, it's interesting, sort of, because I got to see basically all of the issues all in one go. It's 5, isn't it? Cobra 5, where each one is sort of very distinct in terms of the aesthetic, and each artist kind of got their own approach, and it was kind of very much. This one, it felt sort of very, very kinetic. A lot of sort of big shots of the setting these big vistas, and particularly the what I think most of us would kind of look at as that sort of fisheye kind of curving, looking very visually striking and different, but also just a massive amount of kineticism and kind of action. Happening sort of from page to page, and so many characters, and across these main sort of, I guess we got 4 main kind of set pieces. We kind of got this action set up with the Red Divers. There's a bike chase, a card game, and then a swamp chase as well. Each with a slightly different cast, and then kind of each sort of a little bit of moment for those characters to kind of breathe and have a spotlight as well.
Thank goodness they gave me a character that I could have action with, and it wasn't a quiet story, because it would have been funny making oatmeal like that, having the character in the kitchen, fish-eyed views and plates flying around.
Tell us about this vehicle that we see on the second page and the last page. This Cobra carrier. Okay, that's what were you thinking when you designed it?
I was thinking just like a flying, like a carrier that could hover and fly. So it has different propellers, almost like a cross between a helicopter and a plane. I think I looked at reference, but then kind of did my own thing. And
so VTOL.
Right, that's the word I was looking for. VTOL.
Okay.
Vertical takeoff. What's the L?
And landing.
That's the most important part.
Yeah, just the takeoff without the landing. It's a more precarious situation.
Vertical takeoff with lots of parachutes for everyone inside.
And then we just leave it up there.
So no revisions, no requests for changes once you were drawing in the story or in art.
There was there was back and forth with the story, and then I would share my layouts. No, there wasn't too much. No, once the story was done, there wasn't too much revisions that I can think of.
Sometimes we hear from G.I. Joe artists that they have drawn someone shooting someone, and it's a little too bloody. And either Skybound says, "Hey, we think Hasbro's going to say tone this down," or Hasbro says, "Hey, please tone that down." And I'm not necessarily fishing for that specific one, but we are interested in not the controversy of it, but the creative back and forth. Because sometimes it's about clarity, or it's about making something a little bit more impactful.
I think there was
Yeah, I was going to say, I had a thought which was a little bit spoilery, and I've created a new spoiler jingle. So I'm going to play that at this moment as the big spoilery bit. So here we go. Here's the jingle.
Watch out! There's spoilers ahead! Turn back before it's too late!
There we go. That's be the first time Tim's heard that one. I did that last time. So spoilers ahead. Towards the end of the book, there's a particular dynamic between two characters, and one of those characters is kind of looks like he comes a bit of a cropper underwater. Oh. And I'm still being a bit vague. I can be that vague enough that people who know will know. So I wondered whether possibly a bit of feedback might have been to leave that vague enough that he might still be alive. He might not. Let's not kill him off in the story.
No, there was no note for that, but that was just something I did. I try to leave a lot of stuff that might be offensive or gross to somebody. I don't want it to be too off-putting. So maybe he did or maybe he didn't. But there was one note to go back. It was about drinking alcohol. So that's not alcohol. That's just some venom. Copperhead
mineral water.
Yeah, with probiotics.
Right, you said right. Probiotics.
Snake probiotics. Yeah, no, there was no notes about. There would have been a note had I ended that person probably, because that character is.
And is there something specific about the drink that makes it non-alcoholic?
Yeah, just what we said right now.
I mean, we can't taste it or smell it.
You know, this story, both the motorcycle chase and the swamp chase, and for that matter, grappling hook onto a passing VTOL carrier, they hit differently if he's not drunk. He's reckless in a whole different way.
Yes.
You know, doing 120 in a motorcycle race on the streets of a crowded city, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe the probiotics got him feeling pretty good.
Well, or if he had a very sugary drink, that can make you a little bit hyper, can't it? It can do weird things of its own.
So Howard, everything for this issue and the cover were drawn digitally. There's nothing on paper, no sketches?
Yes, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you end up doing any more G.I. Joe covers, I can't guarantee any one cover you draw on paper would definitely sell. But I will say, in a general sense, there is a healthy G.I. Joe original art collector population. And
that's what I hear. I think the art collector population is strong now because with AI and everything and digital, people doing things digitally, it's cut back the amount of original hand-drawn art. So I would like to get back to that.
And presumably you drew the cover well in advance.
I wouldn't say well.
Somewhat
slightly in advance.
Okay. And then did you color the cover as well, or is that...
That is Rom. Yes,
okay.
That's Rom, yeah.
Okay. Mark, I think I'm out of questions. Unless we're going to dive into just sort of other comics and process. But Mark, what do you got?
I think that was it for me as well, to be honest. It was, I think that, a lot of the story sort of talks for itself, and I don't want to necessarily overthink it too much. It's just it was a kind of a fun romp and a lot of energy, a lot of detail there, and a lot to kind of linger over on and sort of have the quick read because it doesn't have any dialogue. There's less there to slow you down, but there is a lot on the page to kind of to absorb. So I sort of did a quick read and then sort of went back through and sort of tried to absorb the detail was kind of my approach. And I'm sure many will sort of probably do something similar. Was there anything about the details in the book or the process of creating it that you'd like to call out that we've not specifically talked about? Maybe something that you snuck in that you were particularly pleased with that we might not have pulled out?
Not that I can think of. However, I would say when I got about halfway through that, Ben and I would be chatting back and forth in emails, and like he's like, I don't really know this character so well, but I really want to now. I really want to see more. I'm like, I'm really kind of falling in love with this guy, Ben. Like, maybe more of this later. So there's that kind of thing. But as far as draw attention to, no, other than I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to have written in something, and I'm very proud of that, and I appreciate it to have.
That's great.
When you were announced as one of the creators for this additional month of wordless stories, I thought, awesome. Someone who hasn't drawn a G.I. Joe story before, someone who's got a particular way of drawing, and stuff is dynamic and a little exaggerated, or a lot exaggerated.
Yeah.
And exaggerated.
Yep.
And it's this character that I like a lot. And I think in the initial announcement, the covers were there. And as I've already explained, I thought, cool.
Yeah.
So I hope this experience with not just G.I. Joe in general, but this specific version of G.I. Joe, not the Energon universe, was such that you'd consider coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if any Skybound editors are listening, I hope they'll think of Mr. Porter perhaps for a return engagement for some story in the future, not just covers.
That would be fantastic. And let's see more Copperhead, because I enjoy him. I think
exclusive Copperhead ongoing series. From,
Howard, while I'm just brainstorming things that Skybound could maybe make happen or not, would you consider drawing a G.I. Joe story from a plot by someone else?
If I had time, yeah. Of course I would.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Skybound. All right. Because there are writers who write G.I. Joe comics.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes Skybound likes to get some additional issues done to keep the schedule steady. So.
Maybe.
Nice. Cool. So, I think that just leaves us to say thank you so much to Howard for joining us, being so generous with your time and so open with the sharing the experience of creating this issue. And we didn't spoil too much. So even for people who didn't yet read it, I hope you go out and pick it up off of the comic racks and check it out.
Thank you, guys.
Howard.
Thanks a lot again.
Howard, are there places on the internet where people should find you?
Yes.
Is there something that you want to promote, a social media or website or a band?
Yes, you can find me on the Talking Joe podcast. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the only place. It's the only place that counts. Fantastic. Cool.
And we're back.
That was great. I say that every time, but it was so nice to see Howard. Sometimes when you just see someone's art, you've got no kind of idea of what the person is going to look like, be like, and yeah, it was he was great. It was very down to earth and sort of having my big introduction to sort of the Justice League was in the form of comics was through his work on JLA with Grant Morrison all the way back in the day. I can remember sort of first seeing his work on that in the pages of Diamond previews. All of these years later, great to see him on G.I. Joe, and also to have this conversation.
When that series came out, when the Morrison Porter JLA came out, inked by John Dell, I remember thinking, oh, DC's doing a Marvel book. And even though Howard Porter hadn't drawn for Marvel, the way that he drew and the way that Morrison was constructing these very splashy but dense stories felt like, compared to almost every other DC book at the time, where the artwork was always like good, but a little less dynamic, a little bit more, this is an imprecise term, old-fashioned, sort of in page layouts. Porter was doing more of the sort of Marvel and Image hotness. If you told me then in 25 years, he'll be drawing an issue of G.I. Joe, I would have thought, no. A wordless issue that he's also writing. And in fact, just last week, I was talking to one of my employees at my store about JLA, because on the front of the cash wrap, the register area, we have a couple single dollar comics that the publishers published as $1 comics. So like we still have one or two of those like IDW like 100 penny press, or like the Image Firsts that are $1. DC's was called dollar comics. And in fact, we have a copy of JLA #1 in the dollar comics edition for $1. And it's just loose. And I was talking to one of my employees about like the Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner thing in the 90s. And I was like, see over here, right? All these people who were reading Justice League in the 90s thought that this is who Green Lantern was, Kyle Rayner, and this guy, Howard Porter, drew this. So yes, I also think of that run, but also, you know, lots of Flash comics and that Fantastic Four arc during the Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo run. But I think getting back to this comic specifically, G.I. Joe art hasn't looked like this very often, even though we've now had several publishers with a really wide range of styles. Some G.I. Joe art has gone in this direction. It's very sort of slick, but there are also a lot of sort of lines. It's like busy, but not messy. And there is a lot of dynamism and exaggeration.
Yeah, maybe the closest equivalent might be like John Royal, who obviously did the covers and did Danger Girl, G.I. Joe crossover. Or, I don't know, in terms of like that bendiness that we were talking about, that sort of maybe Michael Golden. It doesn't look like Michael Golden, but in terms of that not quite trying to create reality as everyone else draws it, that sort of bit more kind of cartooning and exaggeration.
Yeah,
perhaps.
A spiritual successor or cousin to the Michael Golden pages and covers. But you're right. The style isn't similar, but the approach is. And I do like the point that you made about how these 5 Cobra wordless issues for 2026 are all really distinct, and it's not just because the characters lend themselves to different kinds of stories. All 5 stories have different approaches, but all 5 of the comics have very different flavors and pacing and sort of energy level. And Copperhead's one of those characters. You know, I even forgot when I was talking earlier in our episode about how this character has only showed up a few times. Even while I was saying that, I forgot about how he then became a Python Patrol version of himself. And that action figure, like, it's just disproportionately cool for how, you know, it only happened once. And then like many years later, they did like a re-release, or there's the classified version, but it's like, oh, well, he was in Operation Dragonfire, right? Both classic Copperhead with a like new voice actor, sort of doing the accent that the like 1984 voice actor had been doing in the Sunbow Marvel episodes. And then he gets his new costume and like, oh, right. In 2 episodes of Dragonfire in 1989, he's an important supporting character in that story. And yet, you know, Mark, what issues of A Real American Hero has he shown up in? I mean, he's probably in 24, 25 because he's on that cover.
No, it's Zartan in the in the Water Moccasin. He doesn't appear in this. It's I think the only times he's appeared have been very seldom, like in that what's it called, Cobra Command. You know, when he's, you know, with like Scrap Iron and Firefly driving about in a van, sort of picking up Wendy Ling Torres and that kind of thing. So
Cobra World Order.
Cobra World Order.
Okay,
thank you.
because Cobra Command is a story in the
so
IDW universe.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that I can never remember the name.
And then presumably he showed up in 275 or in Snake Hunt, because the goal was that everyone shows up in Snake Hunt, but I can't remember.
I'm not sure if he did or not.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he was one of the characters that came back in 324, 323, where we had all of those Cobras coming back, right, that we haven't seen for a long time. So, but again, you know, just probably, I think, a head on the panel and head on the cover, perhaps, and you know, in a couple of the panels, sort of, we've not had lots and lots of story. With him in the comics.
Fun fact: my brother bought or was given the Water Moccasin as a kid when we were getting the toys. And yet, I think within 2 years, he and I had traded, and the figure was now mine. The Copperhead figure, is that right? Yeah. I got the figure, but the vehicle stayed with my brother. And this division is not, it's pretty porous, right? But like during games, when we would like get all of our stuff out, or some of it, you know, my brother played with his figures and I played with my figures, and we played the same game at the same time, but I was not manipulating his figures or doing the voices and vice versa. It was entirely cooperative, but his figures were his. And I think my buddy came over once, and my buddy came over once in when I was a little bit older, and he's like, "Oh, you have so much G.I. Joe." And I was like, "Well, I can't play with half it. It's my brother's." My friend was aghast. That friend is Nick Nadell, who's editing my G.I. Joe book and has a lot to say about G.I. Joe. Do you have any other either broad or specific things you want to say about this issue? We're sort of not doing spoilers anymore in this episode, although you and I do have the preview PDF from Skybound. So even though we can't show the rest of the pages, we could talk about them, but maybe that's not quite in the spirit of this episode.
Yeah, I don't feel that we necessarily need to. I mean, sort of my broad sweeps for me are probably enough that they fit in an awful lot into the 20 pages in terms of the sequences, the scenes, the grand vistas that they have, all of these different characters. There's so much action, and it's one of those issues where you almost don't want to overthink it too much, because it's just got so much, joy, so much fun to it. And yeah, I'll just go with that. It's one where, you can only do so much in a one single issue, and sort of slightly to the side of the continuity. And you just seem like they had a blast with it. It's a lot of fun.
I will say, in the challenge of visually choreographing a story where things are happening and it's clear, I will say there were 3 or 4 moments, maybe 5 in this issue, where I had to pause and really look at 2 panels to see what was happening from one panel to the next. And I will admit, I'm much better at this when I'm reading a physical comic. When I do it on a computer screen with a PDF, my brain 20% shuts down, because I like paper and I don't want to read comics digitally. Even for this podcast, I don't want to, but I will. And I do, if 5 sort of passages from one panel to another, I could have used a little more clarity on. If that sounds like proportionately really high for a wordless comic, it is, although there are so many panels in this comic, and even sort of a normal, finger quotes, like a normal page. I'm on page 7 right now. It's just an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got 5 panels, and one of them is a giant vista of like a big scene change. I will say, if you're looking at the PDF, and this is not any kind of story spoiler, but this is a choreography thing. Mark, if you're looking at page 8, which is the one where the top panel is Copperhead moving through the sort of whole gambling space, and then in the final bit of it, he's holding dice. If you scroll down 3 more tiers on the bottom, he's walking behind someone and he puts his hand on this person's shoulder, and they have a scar. And then in the next panel, he throws someone backwards, like he's gonna take that chair. And I thought, okay, he's just pulled that guy with the scar out of his seat and hurled him backwards. And then a couple pages later, that guy's back. Oh, wait, no, 2 different guys have that scar. Okay, that's what it is. On page 10, a different person who's wearing very similar clothing, similar haircut, and similar scar. But now the second guy who's holding a piece of paper, he has a necktie and like sort of suspenders. So I got a little confused here with sort of is there one guy with short brown hair and a scar and he's got like a blue jacket, or are there 2? Because in the big panel where Copperhead is sitting down on page 9, he's finally sitting at the table where the card game is happening. And there's one person standing, and that person seems to have a blue jacket and a white shirt and a tie, but they're obstructed, so you can't see their face. So I do think between layout, drawing, and coloring, I think there's either two different characters who could have been better delineated, or one character who, when he comes back, he should be like soaking wet.
Yep. No, agree. Makes sense. You don't, if you're going to have someone with a very specific scar, having another person with that very, very similar specific scar is, I think, just playing a bit too close to unintentionally causing confusion. But fair point, fair observation.
But now I'll say something positive. If you go to page 12, it's a splash page. And one of the things we talked about in sort of wordless G.I. Joe comics is the real estate of a splash page, because the original silent interlude in 1984 has one splash page. That's page 1. And Larry Hama chose not to take up that much space for any like really big cool or any really big dramatic moments after that first page. And I've heard him lecture about the storytelling of Silent Interlude, and he really needed that whole first page to show you the whole castle and to introduce Storm Shadow and the flying wing and the thing that Storm Shadow is carrying. And in Howard Porter's wordless issue, he has 2 whole splash pages, but also like 2 or 3 more pages where there's a really big, like 2/3 splash with a bunch of other panels sort of above it, below it, around it. And so he manages to have, again, because there's so many panels on so many pages, a lot of really big splashy art, and yet also a lot of story and storytelling. But if you look at page 12, which is the splash where the swamp race has started, I guess it's the moment that's sort of closest to the cover. But it's really fun because everyone has a different style of swamp skier, right? Like the person with the red jacket, the woman with the like black hair, that's directly behind Copperhead. Hers is like pointy and blue and red. And then the guy behind her, like his is like yellow. And then the one behind that has like the front chassis of a car. And I think, looking at Zanzibar here on page 12, I think he's just in his vehicle, right? I see the missile and I see little joysticks. I was so hoping when I saw this cover that not just Zanzibar would show up, and not just Zanzibar, any swamp skier, but his. And Porter did not disappoint in that regard.
Yeah. And I couldn't help but think of like wacky racers and that kind of trope with, some of the outlandish characters that you'd see in a race like that versus what they've got here with the fire guy and the guy with the scythe and the cat lady with the giant hats, So, but weirdly enough, despite Copperhead being most famous for being a vehicle driver, we don't see this particular vehicle, the water moccasin, actually featured in the issue, which is somewhat, I guess, a surprising omission to some degree, isn't it?
I'll say a little surprising, but not disappointing. There's enough of a big juicy hamburger in this issue that I wasn't like, but what about the fries? And also, I don't. There's no sort of obvious place where it should have appeared, right? Like if he'd gotten away from the first 2-page, like James Bond prologue, not on a plane with a grappling hook, but like if a boat had picked him up and it hadn't been his, and then he like tosses the guy out and gets in, I would have said, wait, that's where you could put the water moccasin. But I do think that while generally I want in G.I. Joe vehicle drivers and pilots to be with their vehicles, I also want them to have a little bit of a life away from it. And, one sort of example is how often Larry Hama uses Wild Bill and how infrequently Larry Hama has the Dragonfly show up, much less Wild Bill in it. And, since there was no Python Patrol moccasin, Copperhead does have this other life away from, his signature vehicle. But, as if Skybound's still listening, maybe some kind of follow-up story drawn by Howard Porter, maybe written by him or someone else who writes a lot of G.I. Joe comics, could have not just Copperhead, but also his awesome, awesome vehicle.
Yeah, I think of any writer now, it's probably Howard Porter is the one who is most personally invested in the character of Copperhead.
Right.
Let's have a look at things that they put on the front of this particular issue.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A, as we said, drawn by Howard Porter and colored by Romulo Fajardo Jr. That J might be silent. It might be Romulo Fajardo Jr. We are low on the water at a slight diagonal, looking a little bit up at Copperhead, he's doing several things. He's gunning it in his swamp skier. That's what it's called, right? Swamp. Yeah. Okay. The thing that's got a giant fan behind it. He's being chased by Zanzibar, who's very small on the cover and firing
like a fan boat, you might say.
Thank you. Zanzibar is behind him, firing a weapon at him. In the immediate foreground on the right, you see the indications of two alligators or crocodiles. I'm sorry, I don't know the difference, and I should. And then a third one that's actually like attacking Copperhead from sort of below the logo. And also there's a snake that's strangling Copperhead. So Porter has really piled things on. Also, there's some like vines on the top that sort of get obstructed by the little bit of like manila folder Silent Mission's logo treatment, and then the G.I. Joe logo. There's some speed lines, a little bit of blurring. There's a little indication on the bottom left of the cover of like a shack or a house that's on the water. And then a really bright sort of light source on the bottom of the cover. Oh, and someone's watching the race happen. I've only seen like a medium JPEG of this. So thank you for zooming in. Folks, we're recording this before the actual comic book has been released. On this shack,
two more animals,
two cats, a sort of tiny, slightly cartoony white cat and another one in black. At this same zoom in, you can see some really bright highlights on the like tiny sort of ripples. They're not waves, but there's a light source for this whole cover that's on the right side. Very exciting cover. And
got his shots splashing into the water.
Oh, that's what. Okay, these are like bullets hitting the water. Oh yeah, okay, right. So exciting cover, and a little. I know this is a Cobra themed month, so we're probably not going to have any G.I. Joes on the cover, but sort of the like rare cover that's not like a boring retailer exclusive variant with just someone standing there and two Cobras and no Joes, but like as a story cover, just two Cobras and no Joes. Cover C is black and white. And folks, if you have never colored a comic and you want to try it out, if you think coloring is easy, I invite you to grab Howard Porter's black and white version of this cover and try and keep everything clear. This is the 1:10 ratio variance. It's cover A, but now all in black and white. That's cover C. And then jumping back a step, cover B is the Jorge Fornes cover, which is open to order. And thank goodness, Mark, here is the water moccasin, right? But we're sort of past the front of it. And so we're seeing enough of it that we know what it is, but a lot of it is actually cropped out of the cover. When I think of the signature shape of the water moccasin, I think of the sort of curve of the front and the sort of two prongs of it, neither which makes it into this cover because we're sort of a little higher and closer. But you do see Firefly, who's relatively small, Copperhead, I keep doing this, who's relatively small in this cover. He's looking up at whatever he's firing at from the turret. And then behind him is some of the fan, and then a little bit of a pale blue sky and a little bit of swamp trees in the background. But these two covers are really nice counterpoints to each other, and sort of everything about them, except for the fact that they both go left to right, is like the opposite. One has two characters, one has one. One has this guy's signature vehicle, one doesn't. One has a lot of rendering and like glow effects in the colors, and the other is a limited palette and flat colors. The Fornes cover, I think in total has like 6 colors. There's like 1 blue and like 2 aquas and a light aqua, and then the like yellow orange of the blast.
And I looked at this cover sort of in passing with all of the preview images and that kind of thing, and didn't think too much of it. It was like, yeah, it's Copperhead, he's in the water moccasin, great, looks nice. Next, but then sort of looking at this with a bit more detail, I'm just realizing how much Fornes is actually reimagining the detail of the water moccasin. He hasn't just taken a picture of the water moccasin and recreated it. Pretty much every element beyond the core components look different. This isn't a sort of a slavish recreation of the vehicle itself. Like the gun turret here is looking much more like a sort of an anti-aircraft kind of cannon that you might see on a warship. The sort of the cannon on the side is kind of elevated, where you might expect that solo kind of driver slot at the front of the boat is sort of not there, or in a different place,
lower and more forward.
Or maybe this vehicle, if we were to see it in entirety, doesn't exist at all. It's a kind of it's been reimagined as a one-person vehicle with a gunner and driver kind of station all in one. So interesting that he has kind of just taken it and run with it and created his own vehicle essentially.
This feels like the water moccasin 20% crossed with the moray, or the mythological HasLab classified scale, like beefed up redo of the water moccasin. The same way that the snowcat got sort of beefed up and redone for the classified scale. Like, well, if you're going to make the water moccasin twice as big, you'd expand it a little bit. You'd give it a little bit more sort of height differences and sides and edges and angles. Similarly, you make a nice point. Similarly, when this was first previewed, I thought, yeah, that's fine. But looking at it, I do appreciate all of the shapes, the spotting of blacks, and how much action and motion there is, but with such a different treatment. Like, there aren't speed lines, but there's all this like sort of splashing of water, both in the art and in the color. There's sort of as a little indication of background, but it still reads as a swamp. But there's a different level of intensity. This one's not a race. This is like a defense or a battle. And there's just the crispness of how Fornes draws that is such a pleasant match for these like very well designed, like Ron Rudat designed characters. Like Copperhead's pretty flashy because he's got like a tank top thing and some straps and like ribbing on the insides of his pants and like tall boots and gloves, but like he's gonna get wet all the time. So some of this needs to be like waterproof, but also like he's gonna get hot, so he's not gonna be wearing like long sleeves. At the same time, compared to like modern costume design in movies, his costume's pretty restrained, as are all of the 80s G.I. Joe costumes. And I love both the flair of a Howard Porter drawing him and also the restraint of a Jorge Fornes drawing him.
And I'm realizing as well that the lines on that mask are actually, I think, inspired by the look of the classified character, who has got sort of an updated version of the Copperhead mask, which originally was a lot sort of plainer, less color splashes, and on the classified version there is these kind of vertical sort of silver lines, which is what Fornes is showing here, and on his take, Howard Porter is kind of made look a little bit more organic, a little bit less kind of uniform, sort of engineered shape, and a little bit more designy,
if you're
jagged.
If you're a comics artist and you have to draw a G.I. Joe character like the Alley Viper, right? Mark, you and I have so internalized that 1989 figure that if we went online and found a like small photo of it, like the yojo.com photo of it, that's good enough for us. Also, we might have the figure, or like even if it's in a box somewhere, we look at a like small crummy photo of it online. And if you and I were drawing a comic, I think we could pull it off. If we had never drawn G.I. Joe before, right? When you see a fuzzy image like that of a very small action figure that has wonderful sculpting, but it's just very small and you just can't track all this detail. As an artist, you start to doubt yourself. Like, well, what is this texture? Like, is this like ribbing? Is it a mesh? Is it like smooth? Is this like, are the pants being tucked into the boots, or do the pants like cut off there? Like, I can tell they aren't frayed, but is it like cut off with a clean hem? And you don't spend a lot of sort of minutes like worrying about this, but you want to get it right. And so you just really want good, big, detailed reference. So if you're Googling this and you find a classified image, right? As a purist, I don't want any artist drawing the like Larry Hama universe with the classified designs, because to me, that belongs to some other universe of comics. That should be Energon or some other thing that's separate. But I don't fault any artist who sees a really clean official Hasbro photo or rendering, or some amazing like toy photographer of the Alley Viper or Copperhead. And these new toys have all these additional sort of things happening on them. And then like Andy Kubert starts drawing like the 2023 Cobra Soldier on G.I. Joe covers, not the like 1982 Cobra Soldier. Like, it's not my preference, but I totally understand, because you just want the best reference possible. And the bigger the photo, the bigger the thing being photographed, the more detail, the more in focus, the more you can actually like see and claim. Cover D, 1 in 25. It is the Jorge Fornes cover. Just Copperhead is in color. Everything else is turned into grayscale, but now he's sort of matted behind the letter R, which is like the window, and then around the letter R is red. And the letter R is not for red. Mark, it is for?
Ra. K-O-B-R. Ah.
Yeah.
Cobra. And you said grayscale. I mean, specifically, I guess it's foil, because the letters
Yes.
are done in foil on these 1 in 25 covers. So we are 4 weeks through the 5 issues of Sssilent Missions. We have had Baroness, we have had Crimson Guard, we have had Zartan, we have had Howard Porter's Copperhead, and next week will be Firefly, being released April the 29th, coming from Jorge Fornes. And we've spoken to the creators of 4 of those books.
And there was a regular Energon Universe issue two weeks back, and a regular Larry Hama, a Real American Hero issue. I'm looking down at my calendar. One week back, folks. It's not too much, but it is a lot for your wallet, for my reading pleasure, and for my podcasting minutes. So, Mark, thank you for lining up these great interviews and so much additional editing this month and posting.
My pleasure. It's been more to do than normal, and I wouldn't like every month to be like this from a podcast perspective. But we're almost at the end of it now, and I'm sure things will surely return back to normalcy. If just as long as I don't have to travel internationally to a giant convention where there'll be plenty of things to do for the podcast. Anyway, that's so until next time, let's remind people where they can find us. Talking Joe can be found at talkingjoe.co.uk. That's the website that points you to all of the places that we can be found. So if you're looking for a Facebook group, if you're looking for podcast only channel, if you're looking for YouTube, if you're looking for Twitter, Instagram, merch, or indeed a Patreon, which is where people really go to show their love to Talking Joe by backing us. And a big thanks to Richard, Sam, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, D, Shane V2, Infinite Entertainment, Patrick, Gary V, Coldroff, and B, and newest member, EduB, and other newest member, Literary Octopus. Thank you all for joining on over at the Patreon, patreon.com/talkingjoe, where you can get early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Tim, you've been so busy with Talking Joe stuff. Surely you don't have anything else going on.
Well, it's I do. I have a YouTube channel that's Atomic Abe, video essays on television and film. I have a comic book store that is a physical place you can visit that's just outside of Boston, Hub Comics. And I have a blog, realamericanbook.com, where I write about G.I. Joe. And there is no issue of the Center Holds in April because of the 6-week schedule of this 4-issue miniseries that Boom Studios is publishing, that Larry Hama has written, G.I. Joe artist Mark Bright has drawn, and I edited. Issue 1 was February, issue 2 was March, issue 3 will be May, and issue 4 will be June. But you can go to store and see if they've got 1 and 2 and ask them to order 3 and 4. It's called The Center Holds, and it's superheroes.
Very good. So I think that is us done, and I'll just click the end recording button. But Tim, if before I do so, just interrupt if there's anything that you think I might have forgotten.
Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
That was it. Laters.